They used to call me Sophia's obedient little charity case, so I gave her charity, right between the eyes, with a cup of steaming hot latte and the words, "Here's to your next sponsor, princess." It hit her right as she was live on TikTok, doing her little lip sync thing with Ryan holding her phone like some hired tech monkey. I didn't even wait for the gasp, I just smiled, turned to the crowd in the cafeteria and said, "Don't worry, it's oat milk. She's allergic to truth, not lactose." Silence. Then came the shrieks. Her followers were watching live, eyes wide, mouths wider. Ryan turned around like he was about to square up. I didn't flinch. I handed him a napkin and said, "Clean her up, Romeo, she's dripping desperation." Before that moment, everyone thought I was just the background noise to Sophia's show, the guy who carried her books, bought her meds, and did her homework because it's too stressful being pretty. They used to say I was lucky to even be noticed by her, that I should be grateful when she used me as a footrest while fixing her makeup in class. So yeah, they were shocked. Sophia? She just sat there in her pink cropped sweater, oat milk dripping down her fake lashes, trembling like her face card had just been declined. I didn't stick around. I walked out of the cafeteria, past the teachers, past the security cameras, past the herd of phones being pulled out for replays and reaction shots. Nobody moved. Except Deborah. She looked up from her corner table. No phone, no judgment, just those calm eyes behind her glasses, like she'd been waiting for this moment, like she'd seen it coming long before I did. I nodded at her. She didn't nod back. Fair. Ryan ran after me. Of course he did, grabbed my shoulder and spun me around, fire in his chest and his ego about to catch. I let him. Let him think he had the upper hand, and just as he opened his mouth to deliver some righteous alpha male line, I pulled a crumpled $100 bill out of my pocket and stuffed it in his shirt. "For the dry cleaning," I said, voice like poison wrapped in silk. "And your dignity, you might want to steam both." He blinked, I walked, and the whispers followed me like a parade of stunned silence. Sophia's lapdog went rogue. "Did you see his face? I didn't know John could even talk like that." "Is he hot now?" I didn't care. Not anymore. This wasn't a tantrum. It was a transaction. Because 48 hours ago, someone offered me $5 million for the one thing I never thought was worth selling, my morality. And I took it. Happily. Proudly. Because I finally realized something. Being good in a rigged system just makes you the perfect doormat. Now, I wipe my shoes with people like them. My name's John. I've been called a lot of things in this school, most of them behind my back, some of them right to my face, but the one that stuck the longest was Sophia's charity case. She made sure of that. Sophia is my stepmother's daughter, not by blood, not even by choice, just a packaging defect in the family merger I had no say in. 2 years ago, my dad married her mom, a high-maintenance divorcee with lip filler and a credit card addiction. The only thing real about her was the resentment in her voice every time she looked at me. "This is your little sister now," my dad said on wedding day, half drunk, half hoping it would all work out. "She's had a hard life, no father, you should protect her, be the man she never had around." I was 16, Sophia was 15. And from that day forward, I was not her brother, I was her butler, therapist, bank, and punching bag. At school, she made me pretend we weren't related, told everyone I was just a neighbor, told me if I ever mentioned the word step-siblings out loud, she'd cry sexual harassment and ruin my life. I believed her. She had that kind of power, the kind of power that comes from being the queen bee in a school where the teachers are more afraid of lawsuits than they are of liars. Sophia had it all, straight A's handed to her, followers in the thousands, a sponsorship with some tacky skincare brand that used her face on posters in our hallways. Everyone wanted to sit with her. Everyone wanted to be her. I just wanted to survive her. I carried her iced lattes with half the syrup and extra ice, I forged her signatures, did her calculus worksheets. If she failed a test, it was my fault. If she looked tired, I didn't make her bed properly. If she had a zit, I must have breathed wrong in her direction. And when she got bored, she used me for sport. Once, during a school assembly, she accidentally dropped a cup of soda on my lap and screamed, "Ew, did John just pee himself?" The entire gymnasium turned toward me, and all I could do was sit there, legs soaked, face burning, pretending not to care. Nobody questioned her, not even the staff. Why? Because Principal Miller owed Sophia's mom a favor after she funded the new gym renovation. Because teachers knew better than to cross the girl who could mobilize a cancel campaign with a single Insta post. Because the world rewards pretty liars more than it protects honest losers. And me? I was the loser. I didn't fight back, I nodded, I obeyed. I told myself it was temporary. That if I just stayed quiet, got my grades, kept my head down, maybe I'd escape this nightmare and go to college far, far away. But silence has a cost, and mine had been adding up. Then there's Deborah. She's the kind of girl who keeps her headphones in even when the music's off. Not because she wants to be cool, but because silence is her armor. She sits in the second row, window seat, 3 desks away from me in literature, never talks unless she has to, reads strange books with titles like The Subtle Tyranny of Smiles and Ethics for Bastards. No one bullies her, no one really knows her, but I noticed her, and I know she noticed me. Once, after Sophia dumped a milkshake in my locker and left it to rot over the weekend, Deborah was the only one who didn't laugh when the smell hit the hallways. She didn't help either, but her eyes said she wanted to. That was enough. Ryan? That's a different story. Captain of the soccer team, golden boy, tall, loud, and always camera ready. The kind of guy who never untucks his shirt but never gets detention for it. He used to high-five me in the halls back in middle school. Now he calls me cup holder. He and Sophia? Yeah, they're a thing. Not officially, she never confirms it, says labels are for poor people, but everyone knows. They show up to school in matching shoes. She posts cropped selfies of just his chin and calls it my favorite view. He calls her princess in front of people and investment behind closed doors. I know, I've heard. Ryan once shoved me into a locker just for looking at Sophia while she was fixing her hair. I didn't even know I was looking. He said, "Eyes down, simp," and I obeyed. Because that's what I did. Obeyed. Until I didn't. Until someone offered me money. Not to fight back, not to snitch, just to stop caring. $5 million. Wire transfer, no questions asked. Sell me your morality, the man said, you're not using it anyway. I asked what the catch was. He smiled and said, the catch is, you're free, but freedom costs everything that made you tolerable. So I paid. And now the rules are reversed. Now, when Sophia tries to hand me her gym bag, I drop it on the floor and ask if her arms are broken. Now, when Ryan bumps my shoulder in the hall, I turn slowly, stare him in the face, and ask, do you need help adjusting your manhood? Now, when teachers try to guilt-trip me for not covering for her, I smile and say, I was raised to protect women, not enable tyrants. Nobody knows what happened to me, but everyone feels it, especially Deborah. She doesn't wear her headphones anymore. The day Sophia finally went too far, the weather was suspiciously beautiful, sun out, birds chirping, the kind of day the universe uses to mock you while it slaps you in the face. Literally. She slapped me, in front of everyone, in the middle of the quad. All because the school counselor called her in for plagiarism, and she decided I was the easiest body to throw under the bus. I didn't write that paper, she shrieked, turning red on cue, crocodile tears swelling in her eyes. He did, ask John, he wrote it for me, he always does. Every head turned. The counselor squinted at me like I was a disease. Is that true? Sophia spun to face me. Tell the truth, John, you're the one who insisted on helping, you said you wanted to. Her voice cracked like she was the victim. I stood frozen. Lying meant I'd be suspended. Telling the truth meant exposing her, breaking the unspoken rule I'd followed since the wedding, protect Sophia or suffer privately. But that wasn't even the part that got to me. No. It was what she whispered as she leaned in, just low enough so no one else could hear. Speak up, dog, let's see how far your loyalty goes. That's when I snapped. I didn't answer the counselor, I didn't explain, I just raised my hand, slowly, deliberately, and took the untouched milk tea from her desk. It wasn't even mine, it was some intern's. I twisted the lid off, walked over to Sophia, and poured the whole thing over her head. The gasp from the students hit like a slap in reverse. Milk tea streamed down her perfect curls. Her mouth opened in this beautiful silent horror, like someone unplugged her voice, and for the first time since I met her, I saw fear in Sophia's eyes. It was intoxicating. You want to pretend I'm your dog? I said, loud enough for the crowd. Fine, but dogs bite. Then I turned to the counselor and added, she wrote that paper herself. If you suspend anyone, start with the fraud who thinks eyeliner is a personality. I left before anyone could stop me. Outside, the sun kept shining like nothing had changed, except everything had, and I didn't get far before someone was already waiting for me, sitting on a bench by the parking lot, suit, slicked back hair, expensive shoes that hadn't touched a puddle in their life. He looked up from his phone, smiled, and said, "That was satisfying." I stared. He gestured to the empty space beside him. "Have a seat." "I'm good," I replied. "Suit yourself," he said. "I represent an organization. We like to invest in people at their breaking point, people like you." "What do you want?" I asked. He stood up, walked over, and handed me a business card. It was matte black, no name, just a QR code and a single phrase, "Morality is a debt, collect or dismiss." "I'll make it simple," he said. "We'll wire you $5 million, tax-free, no strings attached. You just have to sign away your morality, verbally, right now." I laughed. "You're joking. I watched you pour tea on the golden girl of this school. You're not joking anymore either, are you?" I looked at the card. My hands didn't shake, not even a little. He pulled out his phone, tapped something. "Say yes, and it's yours. The account's real, you can check it." I stared at him for a long time, then said, "Yes." He didn't smile, didn't nod. He just hit send on the screen. My phone vibrated a second later. Incoming transfer, 5,000, and just like that, I was free. The next day, I walked into school with a brand new pair of shoes, zero homework, and the slow swagger of someone who no longer gave a damn. I didn't avoid Sophia. I made sure to walk past her table in the cafeteria and knock her purse to the ground without looking. She stared at me. I stared back. "Pick it up," she snapped. "Why?" I asked, loud and clear. "Did your spine finally break?" People choked on their fries. Sophia stood, trying to maintain composure. "You think you're funny now?" I shrugged. "No, I think I'm rich." Ryan stepped in then, puffing his chest like a cartoon character. "Bro, you better chill before..." "Before what?" That was when I pulled the toilet brush from my bag. The exact one Sophia had once scrubbed my water bottle with and posted on her private story for laughs. I held it like a trophy and shoved it, bristles first, into Ryan's face. He recoiled. The room erupted. Phones came out. "Smells like loyalty," I said. "You want it back?" Nobody laughed. They just gawked. Because the simp was gone. And in his place stood a monster with a price tag and no leash. Freedom doesn't come with fireworks, it comes with silence, awkward, thick, judgmental silence, the kind that trails behind you in hallways like gum on your shoe. That was the soundtrack of my first week as the new John. People didn't know how to handle me. The teachers avoided eye contact, pretending not to hear the sarcastic one-liners I muttered under my breath, the ones I used to choke down for the sake of peace. Like when Mrs. Trent asked Sophia for the 5th time if she was handling the stress of popularity well, I casually raised my hand and asked, should we start a GoFundMe for her emotional trauma, maybe throw in some Botox vouchers too? The class erupted. Mrs. Trent tried to scold me. I asked, "Oh, are we disciplining comedy now or just commentary?" She gave up. Sophia, on the other hand, wasn't taking it well. She'd grown used to my silence, counted on it like Wi-Fi. So when I started glitching her perfect little narrative, she lost her balance fast. First, it was subtle. She'd glare at me across the room, whisper venom into Ryan's ear, flip her hair like she still controlled the wind. Then she started striking back. She filed a complaint saying I was threatening her safety. The school called me in. Principal Miller, the same man who used to praise Sophia's fundraising posts, looked at me like I'd grown horns. "John, we're hearing some concerning things. You've been aggressive, disruptive." "Define aggressive," I said, deadpan. "Do you mean the time I stopped carrying her purse, or the time I poured a beverage over her after she falsely accused me of academic fraud?" He blinked. I leaned forward, because I think it's more aggressive to fabricate accusations, manipulate teachers, and use someone's trauma for Instagram captions. But hey, I didn't major in hypocrisy, that's Sophia's department. He didn't like that. Told me to write a reflection letter. I emailed him a 5-word response: "Freedom isn't always polite, sir." At home, the situation wasn't much better. My dad, still brainwashed by the myth of Sophia's innocence, pulled me aside one night. "John, I know you're angry," he said, "but she's your sister. You've got to be the bigger person." "Sister?" I scoffed. "You mean the parasite you married into?" He flinched. I didn't care. "She's not family, Dad. She's a PR package that came with your midlife crisis, and I'm done being the bonus feature in her documentary." He didn't have a reply. He just sighed and said, "This isn't you." And that's when it hit me. He was right. It wasn't me, not the old me. The new me didn't smile politely at abuse, he didn't fetch slippers or cover for tantrums, he didn't fear isolation because solitude was cleaner than fake company. I wasn't healed, I was just awake. Deborah noticed. She hadn't said a word during all the chaos, but one afternoon, she walked up to me after class and handed me a folded paper. "Don't open it now," she said, soft but firm. I waited until I got home. It wasn't a love note, it was a quote. "When you tear off your chains, you also tear the skin beneath. Freedom bleeds, but at least it breathes." At the bottom, she'd written one line in her tight, minimalist handwriting: "Just don't lose yourself completely." I stared at it for a long time. The next day, Sophia tried again. She staged an emotional breakdown in front of the drama club, claimed she was being cyberbullied and didn't feel safe anymore. She sobbed so hard she smeared her mascara, even made Ryan hold her while she cried for a TikTok clip. Unluckily for her, I'd already posted a video. A voiceover, set to dramatic music. Clip 1, Sophia yelling at a cafeteria worker for forgetting oat milk. Clip 2, Sophia calling Deborah a library goblin for not wearing makeup. Clip 3, me, off camera, narrating, "Behold the school icon, built on cruelty, crowned by ignorance." Over 100K views in 2 days, comment section was vicious. "This is your queen, LMAO. Bro John deserves an Oscar for patience. Someone get this Sophia girl an empathy transplant." The mask cracked. She tried to fight back, posted a crying selfie with the caption, "People forget I'm human too." So I reposted it with my own caption, "Even snakes have skin." The school was split. Some still defended her, called me bitter, jealous, unstable. But most just stayed quiet, watching the collapse in real time. Like slow-motion karma. Deborah walked by me in the hall the next morning. No words. Just slipped a matchbox into my hand. Inside was a single piece of paper. "If the bridge burns, don't go swimming." Clever. But I wasn't planning to. I was building something else, something stronger. Isolation stopped me feeling lonely. It started feeling earned, clean, like scrubbing off years of invisible filth. Every friend who ghosted me, good riddance. Every teacher who looked the other way, noted. Every fake smile that disappeared, a win. I wore the backlash like armor. And when Sophia's aunt, her influencer aunt, messaged me privately to say, "You're ruining a young woman's life. What if she does something to herself?" I replied with a screenshot of Sophia's latest sponsored post promoting mascara with the caption, "Stay flay less, even when the haters attack." That shut her up. I wasn't afraid of the fall anymore, because I already fell. This was just me learning how to land. Sophia wasn't built to lose. Her whole existence was stitched together with spotlight thread. So when the school started laughing at her instead of with her, she didn't just break, she planned. It started quietly, a few whispers, a few odd glances in the hallway. Then one afternoon, 2 seniors cornered me outside the gym. Big guys, the kind that play rugby just to hit people without legal consequences. "You John?" one of them asked, cracking his knuckles. "No, I'm the Easter Bunny," I replied, deadpan. He didn't laugh. The punch came fast, caught my cheekbone hard. I hit the ground. The other one grabbed my collar and hissed, "You messed with the wrong girl. Say sorry." I spit out blood and said, "To who? The one who fakes tears for likes or the one who hires cavemen?" That earned me a kick in the ribs, but I didn't scream. I smiled, because I knew the camera was rolling. Sophia had followed through exactly how I'd predicted. I'd set up the hallway 2 days ago, planted a tiny camera in the old vending machine slot, just in case, because Sophia didn't fight fair, she never had, and if she wanted war, I was done bringing words to a gunfight. I uploaded the footage that evening, caption, "Sophia's personal welcome committee for critics, sponsored by brain damage and bad decisions." It blew up. By morning, local blogs had picked it up, so had the district's safety committee. Even the school board sent out a formal investigation notice. Sophia denied everything. Until I posted the next video. It was from 3 weeks ago, her voice recorded in the art room, telling Ryan, if he opens his mouth again, I'll make sure he doesn't walk for a month. Boom. 2 strikes. 3 came fast. I invited her mother's side of the family, her uncles, cousins, aunts, to a school reconciliation session. Said Sophia had prepared a heartfelt apology and wanted to make peace. They showed up in fews. Full force, half of them in suits, half in guilt. I told them to wait in the auditorium, then I turned on the projector. The live stream played automatically. Sophia, backstage with Ryan, fuming. No, I'm not apologizing. If these idiots believed in me before, they can keep believing. John's just a manipulative little freak who got lucky with internet clout. If anything, he should be thanking me for the exposure. Cut to black. The silence was biblical. Her aunt stood up and muttered, "She said what?" The door opened. Sophia walked in with a fake smile and a note card. Then saw the audience. Then the frozen screen behind her. Then me. Sitting in the front row. Waving. She choked. Someone from her family yelled, "So this is your redemption arc, huh?" She ran out. Tripped on the steps, dropped her note card. Ryan bolted after her, looking like a toddler chasing his phone down an escalator. Me? I walked outside, took a breath, and opened my bank app. The $5 million was still sitting there, untouched. But I had other plans. By the end of the week, I owned 3 things I didn't have before. A car. Not fancy, just fast enough to feel like freedom. A 1-bedroom apartment 5 blocks from campus, prepaid for the year. A business license. See, Sophia destroyed my peace, my name, my identity. So I started selling hers. I bought a domain, sophiaunfiltered.com, filled it with everything, screenshots, voice notes, video clips, receipts, nothing illegal, all public record now, just organized and presented like a resume, for truth. The traffic crashed the server twice in one day. People started recognizing her on the street, not as the school's queen bee, but as the girl who paid people to shut someone up, the girl who cried on camera, then cursed off it, the girl who edited her face but couldn't Photoshop her soul. Ryan tried to fight me again. I handed him a cease and desist letter, told him I'd sue for harassment if he so much as breathed in my direction. He backed down. Cowards fold fast when they're not protected by pretty girls and empty threats. Deborah stopped me in the hallway later that week. "You okay?" she asked. I stared at her. "Do I look okay?" She tilted her head. "You look free. That's not always the same." I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Because for the first time in years, Sophia had no script left. And I was just getting started. The school called it a hearing, but we all knew what it was, a public execution in fluorescent lighting. Sophia and Ryan sat side by side at the long table in the front of the auditorium. She wore white, always the victim. Ryan had a blazer on, one size too big, like he borrowed it from someone who actually had a future. Principal Miller sat in the middle, lips pressed so tight they looked stapled shut. Behind them, a panel of board members. In front of them, rows of folding chairs filled with parents, students, teachers, and enough cameras to make a Netflix doc. And me? I stood calmly beside the projector, holding a USB drive like it was the blade for a guillotine. "I think we've heard enough rumors," I said. "Let's talk facts." The projector hummed to life. The screen lit up. Video 1, Ryan accepting bribes to change test answers on the student portal, passwords exposed, time logs traced, his smug little face smiling directly into the lens as he muttered, "Easy money." Video 2, Sophia mocking the mental health club while secretly running a burner account to bully anyone who disagreed with her. The audio was crystal clear. "I mean, come on," her voice echoed in the room. "You think depressed people need support? They need better genes." Gasps. One woman covered her mouth, another shook her head in disbelief, a teacher stood up and walked out. I glanced at Sophia. Her hands were white-knuckled on the desk. Ryan looked like he was calculating the distance to the nearest exit. "John," Principal Miller started, his voice cracking like he was trying to stay neutral. "Where did you get this footage?" "I didn't," I replied. "Deborah did." All eyes turned to the back corner. Deborah sat alone, calm, notebook in hand. She didn't even blink. She saw everything, heard everything, recorded everything. "Because unlike you," I said, looking directly at Miller, "she pays attention too. Or what happens when the lights are off." Ryan shot up. "This is illegal. This is invasion of privacy." "You said that into a school-owned laptop," I cut him off. "On school Wi-Fi, in a school locker room. You want to talk legality?" The crowd murmured. I kept going. "Let's talk about that night at the hotel, the one Sophia claimed she booked for mental decompression. Weird how both her mom's credit card and Ryan's showed activity in the same room. Even weirder, the employee who checked them in swore under oath they came in together." Ryan's face went pale. Sophia snapped, "You're obsessed with me, you always have been. This is just revenge because I didn't pick you." "No," I said. "This is justice because you broke people and expected applause." She laughed bitterly. "You think they'll all side with you now? I'm the face of this school. My face is on the scholarship poster." "Not anymore." I clicked the next slide. The school's homepage. Banner updated. Sophia's face, gone, replaced by Deborah's. Approved by the board that morning. Sophia's breath hitched. The room was dead silent. Ryan made a break for it, bolted toward the door, didn't make it halfway before 3 security guards blocked his path. "We're just suspending you," I said loud enough for him to hear. "But the universities you applied to? They're all getting copies of this." He stopped moving, slumped against the wall like someone unplugged him. Sophia stood up too fast. Her chair clattered to the floor. "You think this makes you powerful? You're pathetic, you'll always be pathetic. You're just a poor, angry loser who—" I stepped forward, voice calm. "I sold my morals," I said, then took one step closer. "You sold your soul." She didn't reply, she couldn't. She started crying, but no one offered her a tissue, no one looked at her with sympathy. Her kingdom had fallen, and no one came to save her. She collapsed back into her chair, shaking. A nurse eventually led her out, sobbing into a clipboard. Word spread later that she fainted in the bathroom and was taken to the hospital. Nervous breakdown, media got hold of it. Her mother tried damage control, but the screenshots had already gone viral. Sophia's sponsors dropped her. Ryan's admission letters were rescinded. Their followers vanished. Me? I walked out of that auditorium to the sound of silence and flash photography. Deborah caught up to me outside. "You okay?" she asked. I nodded once. "Yeah." She held out her hand. I took it. Simple. Steady. "Where to now?" she asked. I smirked. "Home." We walked together down the steps. The wind was cold, but for the first time, I wasn't. I'd burned everything that ever held me back. And all that was left, it was mine. My dad moved into the apartment a week after the hearing. He didn't say much when I handed him the keys, just stood in the doorway, holding the box of pans he'd salvaged from the old house, staring like he wasn't sure if he deserved any of this. "You sure?" he asked. "You're letting me stay here?" "You cooked for 10 years in someone else's kitchen," I said. "This time, the place is yours too, no conditions." He chuckled dryly, then stepped inside like he was walking on sacred ground. I didn't hug him, he didn't cry. We were too far past that. But that night, I found him in the kitchen, quietly scrubbing the backsplash. He looked up and said, "I used to think survival was enough." I nodded, leaning against the doorway. "It isn't," he said, voice low. "Survival without dignity? It just makes you disappear while you're still alive." He never said Sophia's name, not once, and I never asked him to. We started over, quietly, deliberately. He picked up shifts at a different restaurant across town. I began investing small chunks of the $5 million. Legal consultation, real estate, a side hustle building expose websites for bullied students. The irony didn't escape me, making money helping others unmask the Sophias in their lives. I called it moralsforrent.com. Business was good. Deborah came by sometimes, never uninvited, never empty-handed, Sometimes it was a book, sometimes a silent walk around the block, sometimes she just sat on the couch with a notebook, not writing anything, just existing. One night, she asked, "Do you miss who you were before?" I stirred my tea and stared into the mug like it might offer a real answer. "No," I said. "I miss who I could have been if the world hadn't tried to crush me." She nodded once, then looked out the window. "You know, I'm glad you crushed it back." Then, silence. And that was better than any confession. The Sophia headlines faded. Eve. Eventually, her Instagram account was deleted. Her mother moved out of town, blaming the culture of canceling instead of the rotten daughter she raised. Ryan vanished. Word spread he left the country, took a job managing luxury influencers overseas. Fitting. He was always best at polishing other people's garbage. Then one afternoon, Sophia came back. She stood outside the black iron gate of our apartment building, pale, thinner, no makeup. She wore a hoodie 3 sizes too big and a medical mask, like she could still hide from the digital wildfire that consumed her name. I saw her through the camera feed. She rang the buzzer 3 times. I answered on the speaker. "John, it's me." "I know. I just want to talk, just 5 minutes." "What could you possibly say that doesn't cost 5 more years of my life?" Silence. "I'm not here to fight," she whispered. "I'm tired. Everything's gone. I was sick. I was alone. I've lost everything." "You didn't lose it," I replied. "You auctioned it off in real time." "I didn't mean to." "Don't care." She flinched at that. I watched her eyes dart toward the camera, as if trying to find mine through it. "Is your dad home?" "He's making stew." She looked like she might cry. "He always made good stew." "Yeah," I said. "Now he makes it for people who know how to hold a spoon without stabbing anyone." She reached out and touched the gate. "I've got nowhere to go," she said. "Please." I leaned into the mic. "You used to say I was nothing without you." She didn't answer. I hit the gate lock override. The bolt clanked, but the gate didn't open. She looked up, confused. I stepped out onto the front steps, phone in one hand, steaming mug in the other. And with one motion, calm, deliberate, I locked the gate manually, right in front of her face. She stared at me, stunned. I took a sip of the tea and said, "This is your real reflection, Sophia. No filters, no applause, just the consequence you kept tagging other people with." She stepped back. "So that's it? You're really going to do this?" I tilted my head. "You did this," I said. "I'm just letting the credits roll." She stared at me like she wanted to scream. But nothing came out. She turned and walked away, slow, hunched, like even gravity was done supporting her. I watched her fade into the crowd, just another ruined face among strangers. Later that evening, Deborah dropped by. I told her what happened. She didn't ask for details, just looked at me for a long second, then poured herself tea and sat beside me on the balcony. City lights blinked in the distance. Somewhere, a siren wailed, a dog barked, life kept moving. "You okay?" she asked again. I thought about it, then nodded. "Yeah, I'm not free from what they did," I said, "but I'm free to choose what I become now." She smiled faintly. "That's more than most people ever get." We sat in silence for a while, sipping tea as if the world hadn't nearly burned us both down. The next day, someone at school stopped me outside the library. "You're John, right?" the kid asked, nervous. I nodded. He glanced around. "Is it true what they said, that you did all that just to prove a point?" I looked him dead in the eyes. They asked if I'd do it all again. I told them. I never stopped.